Welcome, welcome. My name is Selena Lael. I am a coach here with Wellness Coach by Meditation.live. And it is my pleasure today to actually be hosting this panel with our expert coach, Dr. Eric. Before we dive in, I just like to remind everyone that this is an interactive panel. We love to hear from you. So please, if you have questions, if you'd like to share comments, you can do that via the chat box, the Q&A box, and also if you click the little hand symbol, that will give us an opportunity to actually unmute you so we can hear your voice and you can dialogue with Dr. Eric. So again, thank you so much for being here and welcome to you, Dr. Eric.
Thanks so much for that warm welcome and greeting, Selena. I appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody else does. Thanks for coming along, everybody, today. We're going to get right into mindfulness, but before we do, it makes sense to just take a moment and for all of us to get into a brief meditation where we can really have an experiential session today and start with that, and maybe we'll finish with that. We'll see how everybody's feeling, but let's just start off with a very relaxed meditation breathing experience to sort of have this very full, encompassing mindfulness experience. So I welcome everybody to just get in a comfortable position, anywhere you are, however you are, and just gently close your eyes, just so they're just sort of like hanging, relaxed, just like being there as if you don't even notice it. And I want you to take a breath in and take a breath out. And there's no pace to this. It's at your own natural rhythm, just relaxed, noticing the air going in when you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Just resting in the moment. And on your next breath in, just as it warms your nostrils, fills your lungs, let's start at the beginning of the day and just relax in your breathing and notice what it was like when you woke up this morning, where you were, which direction you were facing, what your first thought was. And notice what that moment was like and how that moment is a memory. And that moment will never happen again. And then notice what you did in the morning before you got ready for work or whatever your activity is for the day. And notice what you usually do. What are your routines? What are your habits? Who's with you? What do you see? And as you move on through your day, notice where your day leads you to in the morning and look back and reflect on your morning experiences. And notice how you talk. Notice who you meet with. Notice how you felt in the morning, your energy, your emotional energy. And then notice how you transition through the day into the afternoon. Where were you? Who were you with? How did you feel? And notice how you can see all of these things and observe them without being them. And now notice in this present moment that there's nothing happening other than resting, breathing, and observing. And you can start to open your eyes now and be conscious that you in some capacity, just experienced mindfulness. As simple as that. And you can have that experience anytime, anywhere, just like this, by sitting and breathing and observing. So let's get into the talk and discussion a little bit.
Yes. Wow. Thank you so much. That was such a nourishing practice, so simple. And it actually even brought tears to my eyes to go from that place of remembering everything. And then when you had us become aware of how we were not that thing we were remembering, it just brought this deep sense of peace and even a smile to my face. So thank you. That was such a beautiful practice.
You're very welcome.
Okay, so let's dive in.
Let's do it.
What is mindfulness? We've had an experience of it, but what is mindfulness and how is it different, or is it different from meditation?
Yeah, these words, we use them all the time, and there's all kinds of definitions for this, and I'm not saying mine is the right one, but the way that I like to think about it that just is simple and makes sense is that meditation is the activity that creates the mindfulness experience. It creates mindfulness. So I'm going to unpackage this just a little bit further. So what is meditation? Well, we all know, that there's various kinds of meditation. There's silent meditation, there's guided meditation, there's meditation, that has background music. There's all different kinds, but the notion is that what we're doing is we're practicing an activity that really can just be distilled into very relaxed breathing, okay? Breathing is the most normal thing. Everyone on the planet does it. We all breathe. We all breathe in, we all breathe out. It's as simple as that. The difference is we're not conscious of it every single day, every single moment, right? We just take it for granted, right? Just kind of like you take for granted the sun comes up and the moon comes up at night. We take our breathing for granted. The difference is mindfulness is the shift where in this experience, right, all of a sudden I invited everyone to be aware of their breathing, right? And just noticing the breathing. What does that do? It creates a harmony, okay, with your body. When there's a harmony with your body, it induces a state of relaxation and rest, okay? The meditation is sort of the structure. Some of it's has a little bit more form around it. Some of it has a little bit less form around it, okay? But the meditation is the practice that leads us into the physiological experience of mindfulness, okay? And then it leads us into the conscious experience of mindfulness. What's the conscious experience of mindfulness? This is the experience, like you were just speaking about, Selena, where you are able to observe that you are not that which is happening in front of you. You are not your breath. You are not your morning. You are not your afternoon. You are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. And whatever those were, and they happen all day long, right? It's just like a really good long movie. It never ends. There's always something spinning on the reel, always those frames coming across the screen. And here I was with this character, and then with this character, and then the plot changed, and then here's a different scene, and here was the traffic, and here's the boss that I interacted with, and here's the customer that was really thrilled with what I did today. And then I had something happen with my kids, and then my significant other reached out to me. We talked about this and this, and then it was up and down and sideways and left and inside and outside. And with mindfulness, you can sit back, rest in your breath, and observe all of that. It's like a good movie. Get out your popcorn and, okay, not really, but all you need to do is breathe and relax, right? And in that breathing and relaxation, you have that experience of observation. I like to go back and forth between observation and noticing, right? So you notice, right? What do you notice? You notice what's happening. You notice first what's happening on the outside, and then as you practice it more, you begin to experience and notice what's happening on the inside. What feelings are coming about when I'm noticing these things? What feelings and thoughts are coming about when I notice what happened yesterday or last week or an hour ago? And when you notice it, you're not engaged in it. You're not part of it, right? You're not in the interaction of the moment. And with the blessing of mindfulness and this noticing and observing, you can have the space to be at peace with what's happening, okay? And not be compelled into taking any action, okay? And it will give you perspective, and it will give you insight and awareness, specifically self-awareness, which maybe we'll talk a little bit more about. And these observations and noticing, this is what we say when we say your consciousness is expanded, right? It doesn't mean that there's like a little genie inside of you that comes out of a bottle and something magical happens. No, it means that you're able to observe from what I would like to call like a third party perspective, right? A spectator. You're a spectator of yourself, and you're the star. You're in the middle of the Colosseum in Rome, and you're the spectator, and you get to watch yourself and your life unfolding in front of you. When you have that perspective, you're able to have more compassion for yourself, have more compassion for others, and you're able to see things for the way they really are and not just be a part of the story. So that's something to, maybe sit down with the next time you meditate, you practice your mindfulness, journal about it, and write about the things that you notice. It's a real simple activity. And this will give you some really useful and beneficial insights about what's really happening.
Fantastic. That was so well-rounded and animated. I felt like I was really in the experience of understanding it. It gave me a kinesthetic and intellectual experience. So
Great.
thank you for that. And we would love to hear from all of you. How was the mindful practice that that Dr. Eric introduced at the beginning? How did you feel after that? What did you notice inside of yourself? Do you have any questions that are arising or anything that you're aware of in your own practice of mindfulness or observation that's coming up while you're hearing Dr. Eric speak? And as a reminder, welcome if you're watching us from YouTube. We can't interact live on YouTube, but if you download the app in the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, then we can actually interact with each other live. So we do have a question that's come in over chat, Dr. Eric. It's from Samira, and it says, I breathe from inside my tummy and I let it in and then out, and I feel like letting go of my negative energy. So I guess it's more of a sharing, breathing into the tummy, breathing out, and this feeling of letting go of negative energy. And I think that was complete on that one. Thank you, Samira.
Yeah, that's great for sharing. And that's a great, experience to share with people, because it bridges over to what I wanted to talk a little bit about today, which was the science of mindfulness, right? Not just the experience of this. And when people say negative energy, we all know what that means, but let's maybe pivot the conversation to a little bit of science. And what I think about with negative energy is real simple. It's stress, right? And what is stress? Stress is a physiological reaction, right, to the experience of tension, right, of conflict. And that physiological reaction is pretty ubiquitous. We tense up our muscles, we tense up our nervous system, our breathing gets more shallow, our heart's palpitations increase, we start cycling with our thinking. And this is what we call arousal, right? We become hyper aroused, right? Which is a stress response. So if you get in a car accident or you feel like somebody's about to pull into you, that's a stressful experience, right? And we can think of 1,000 of these things. So how does mindfulness play into this? Well, mindfulness, okay, allows us to diffuse the stress during the day in a very simple way, right? Just like we spent maybe 3-4 minutes doing a mindfulness exercise at the beginning of this, what we did from a scientific and medical standpoint was that we decreased the arousal in our bodies, right? Why is that a good thing? One, because it controls inflammatory things like toxins and cortisol elevations, and it puts us back into a relaxed state. So mindfulness is a free, easy, simple solution for stress reduction. Okay, it's a huge advantage. And it has gone so far. Back in 2008, there was a study in JAMA, which is the Journal of the American Medical Association. It's widely considered the most popular and most prestigious leading medical journal on the planet. And it was an article on the medicinal value of mindfulness back in 2008, when there were 70 published studies on mindfulness and the benefits on the body. That was 11, 12 years ago now. Now there's hundreds of studies about the proven scientific benefits of mindfulness on a regular basis. So this speaks to the notion that with 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever you choose to do, of mindfulness has innumerable, immeasurable benefits on the body, on the mind, on your emotional regulation system that helps you enhance, number one, your well-being. But secondly, I always like to talk a little bit from the performance side and the leadership side. If you're a high performer, you're striving to be one, or you're a leader, you really have to replenish yourself throughout the day. All-star athletes, Olympic athletes, replenish. They rest, right? They have a hard workout. They have a hard, day of routines and exercises. They replenish. They take naps. They take nutrition, and they meditate. They practice mindfulness. Now it's being taught across multidisciplinary sports, right? This is a way to replenish the body, to drive the kind of innovation and leadership that you are striving to have in whatever you're doing in your professional life altogether.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. We have some things coming in over the chat. First, we have a comment from I think it says Sandil, maybe. It says, how does one stay consistent with the practice of mindfulness? Sometimes it's hard to stay mindful.
Yes, I love questions like that because I always have the same answer. It's real simple. You have to put it on your calendar. So what I mean by that is you can simply use the Meditation Live app, set an alert so that at 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. or 1 o'clock p.m. or both, you have a little friendly reminder, a little nudge, say, hey, time to replenish. Do 3 minutes of mindfulness. Do 5 minutes of mindfulness. Take 10 minutes of mindfulness, right? You can schedule it into the things that you normally do. Everybody eats. Before you sit down and eat, practice 5 minutes of mindfulness. So find natural ways to fold this into your life so it's a routine and it's a habit. And if you don't need the alerts and such, that's great. I like using it. I think it's for me, I meditate in the mornings and practice mindfulness. It's a fun way to start the day for me. And I have it there and connect, and it's just great to dial it in like that. So I don't even think about it.
Great. I love that. I have a daily practice also, and I've heard that some people, they don't like the alarm. I always like to use an alarm just as a reminder, but I've heard that integrating into what we're already doing is really helpful for a lot of people. So I love how you captured all of that in that response. We have something that's come through from Margot over the chat. It says, I enjoyed the practice. I liked how we were guided to think back on our day. Mine was rough from the moment I woke up. Reflecting back, I noticed the rest of my day was hectic too. How do you stop and bring this practice into play during the day?
Yeah. Well, it's like you said, you just have to stop, right? This goes to this concept of, and I don't want to get off track, but it's an important one, which is in psychology, we talk about what's called a locus of control. You can Google it up later and read more about it. We talk about an internal locus of control and an external locus of control, which essentially means that my life is happening and unfolding in front of me because I am in control of it, or alternatively, I'm reacting to what's happening on the outside. Okay. the advantage of mindfulness is that it helps us see that. It helps us see that imbalance and that hecticness in the day or in our lives, or maybe it's even prolonged, it's chronic, okay? Mindfulness helps us see that with better clarity. It helps create some space from that. Having space from that can be really beneficial, because when you have space from something that's making your life unstable, imbalanced, hectic, you can separate from it and you can see that I am not that. I am not part of that chaos. Like, I have control over having some peace and some space. So that's really key with mindfulness. It will give you that perspective, and you can go all the way to this place where you can have the observation, here we all are, we're sitting on a planet together, hanging out, that's spinning around in this galaxy, and all of this stuff is going on, and everything is like okay in this moment, right? Because I'm just sitting here and breathing in and breathing out, and all of these things are happening, okay? And they may continue to happen, but that's not me. That's not me. I am not that chaos. I am not those feelings that go along with that. And I'm not those thoughts either. I have those feelings and thoughts, but I am not that. And giving yourself that space is like giving yourself permission to sit down and have an ice cream, right? You deserve it. And you deserve to have mindful moments to break up this noise and chaos and discontrol in your day. So you just have to stop and give yourself a few minutes to have that.
Beautiful. Thank you. Jennifer has sent something over the chat. It says, thank you. This is very helpful. I was going to ask how to overcome feelings of guilt in taking time to practice. However, you clearly noted the benefits. Thank you.
You're welcome, Jennifer. Happy to hear that.
So Dr. Eric, I have a question that I would love to hear your thoughts on, but first I'd like to acknowledge that we are just over the 20-minute mark. So if there's anyone that needs to go, thank you so much for joining us. We will continue for a little bit longer though, for those of you that are able to stay. So Dr. Eric, I would love to hear what happens in the brain when we practice mindfulness.
Yeah, the brain is a beautiful organ, because we're really just starting to learn about the miracles of the brain that we didn't previously know about. But here's where we're at with the brain. What we know about the brain is there's an emotional system called the limbic system, and it's all of these organs and neurotransmitters and brain chemicals that get activated with emotions. And what we now know from fancy scientific procedures and MRI scans is that when we practice meditation and we practice mindfulness, we have control without, it's paradoxical because we're not doing anything except breathing. We have paradoxical control over our emotional system in our brains, right? So what that means is, again, it gets back to this stress response reaction. So that all of that arousal from the day and all of the feelings that come from being aroused physiologically from our nervous system get calmed down. So our brain calms down, okay? And it creates a place in the brain where the brain can, essentially the experience on the human side is you're no longer ruminating over thoughts cycling through. You're no longer reacting to stressful feelings, okay? And you're in a place of what I'll call brain relaxation, okay? And when the brain is relaxed, it can shift into a place where deep insights emerge naturally, okay? And this is where innovation comes from. And this is where, great ideas are born, okay? People talk about the word flow state, runners and, you don't have to be a runner, but, this notion of flow state. Well, what is the flow state? Well, the flow state was, coined a really long time ago. But the flow state is essentially that the brain is relaxed in a place from its emotional system where your consciousness, okay, is expanding, meaning that the underlying thoughts and ideas and dreams and ambitions and insights are able to sort of float through the ordinary mechanisms that are constantly churning, because of what life brings to us. So that is a really unique advantage to mindfulness. Why is it even more important scientifically? It's become so well proven that there's now what we call mindfulness-based therapy. Okay, mindfulness-based therapy is now in the portfolio of what we call evidence-based therapies, which means that they are research supported, that there is scientific foundation behind it. There are published, peer-reviewed, numerous psychological journal articles, medical articles, saying that this is a proven methodology to have an impact on your psychology for the better. Okay, and how does it do it? By learning how to regulate the emotional system. Simply, and this is obviously an oversimplification, but really in this very simple exercise we did today, with breathing in, breathing out, and noticing.
Thank you. It makes so much sense to imagine that part of the great benefit of mindfulness and meditation is to feel that calm if it's affecting the limbic system and bringing that state of ease in the brain, especially in that emotional center. So that's fantastic. Thank you.
Right.
Charlotte has sent something over the chat. It says, I have vertigo and find it hard to lie down for the body scan. Any suggestions, as I would like to lie down?
Well, if lying down is hard, then maybe start with sitting and having a little bit more structure around your body. So maybe find a nice, comfortable, cozy armchair, or if you want to sort of dial it down a little bit further, maybe a beanbag chair comes to mind, and just sort of gradually expand your zone of comfort. And you'll know where that is because it's your body and it's your experience of mindfulness. So, play around with it a little bit and be kind to yourself and experiment.
Thank you. So we have just a couple of more minutes. Let's dive into one last question and then we'll complete maybe with a closing thought or practice, whatever you feel called to share with us. So we were just speaking about the limbic system, this emotional center in the brain. And I know that the amygdala is kind of like this fear center in the brain. So what happens? Well, I guess I would say, knowing that mindfulness can make that part of the brain less active, how can that benefit our lives? What can that look like in our lives?
Right. Yeah. So that's a great question because everybody has fears, right? We all do. And there's rational fears like, that's a lion, you don't want to go pet it, right? And then there's irrational fears, which is, that's a grasshopper and I'm worried about being near a grasshopper. Okay. So we all have rational and irrational fears to varying degrees. And, they have a way of sneaking up on us at times, or they have a way of wedging their way in our lives at times. The practice of mindfulness, so for people who have joined in before, some of my hobbies in the outdoors include things like rock climbing and mountain climbing. The false belief might be that I'm not afraid of heights. It's completely wrong. Okay. Just like everybody else, I like to have 2 feet on the ground. I feel really safe that way. Being up in the air, suspended, doesn't necessarily elicit great feelings. Now, in this personal experience, mindfulness has helped me in an extraordinary way because through the practice, specifically through the breathing, right, I can notice before I engage, okay, I'm starting to feel a little stressed right now. I need to relax. I need to control the limbic system. I need to dial it back a little bit because nothing's happening. I'm standing here on the ground. I'm feeling nervous. There's really nothing nervous to feel frightened about. There's nothing frightening happening. Okay. And I'm going to be on this wall and I'm going to have 2 hands on the rocks and 2 feet on the rocks. And there's really nothing frightening there. And I'm attached to a rope and the rope is attached to a tree. And there's really nothing that's going to happen. And if I fall, I'm attached to all this stuff. And it's like statistically impossible that the rope is going to snap. Okay. But the irrational mind is, well, what if, right? We get the what if game, where that's going on. So whatever it is that you're afraid of, the fear, whether it's real or not, mindfulness helps us recognize, okay, and have that space and that perspective that you are not your fear. Okay, just like you're not your other emotions or your other thoughts that we talked about earlier in the morning, during the day, when you woke up, later on. Okay, that's not you. Your mindfulness gives you the space and a perspective and the ability to regulate and relax your limbic system to be in the present moment. Okay, and that is the heart of mindfulness. That's the gift of mindfulness, being able to be in the present moment. Okay, and being okay with it, just hanging out.
Thank you. Great. I love that reminder that even just hearing you speak about being okay in the present moment, it sends this sense of ease and calm through my nervous system, where I am reminded just by hearing those words that I can just be and it's okay. So thank you. So it is time for us to wrap up. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thanks for all of your great questions and comments. Dr. Eric, it's been such a pleasure. If you'd like to close us out in some way, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining today. And what I really want to share with you in parting words today is encourage you to, think about what your meditation, your mindfulness experience was today, okay? And really take note of the opportunity to observe and notice and be in the present moment. And my suggestion is that you make a decision that you're going to practice mindfulness one more time, maybe tomorrow, maybe 3 or 5 days in a row, okay? And to really reap the full benefits of mindfulness, have your mindfulness experience, whatever your practice is, whatever you decide. And when you're done with it, just write one question: what did I notice? Okay? And respond to that after each of your mindfulness sessions, okay? And I promise you, you will be surprised at the insights that are revealed to you, things that you see about yourself that maybe you've been struggling with. And when you look at a struggle or conflict or resistance, or as someone brought up earlier, negative energy, having that perspective on that, having that ability to notice and observe what's happening there, and also recognizing that you are not that, is an insight and a revelation that can help you live a better life and be better balanced and function to your optimal potential.
Thank you so much.